Hi everyone, we are live. We're back with another episode of Tales from the Tavern. We've been having a lot of fun hanging out in the green room before the stream started, so we're a little bit behind schedule. So without any further ado, we're going to dive right in with introductions. We're going to start with Isabel. Isabel, tell us a little about who you are and what you do and where people can find you on social media.
Hi, I'm Isabel. I am on Twitter under the handle Unux Powered Game because games was already taken apparently. I have been playing tabletop games, multiple genres for about 15 years now. I started with 2E, and I'm currently doing Starfinder, but I specialize in Pathfinder mainly.
That's awesome. I have yet to play Starfinder, but I've played first edition Pathfinder for a couple of years now, so.
It is lovely.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things. Well, awesome. I am glad that you are here. Jen, we'll go to you next.
My name is Jen, Twitter at JenBurb, JIENBIRB, because I'm a burb. My TTRPG enlightenment, so to speak, was freshman year of college because, of course, leave it to me to find a one-shot that turned into a full-on campaign during orientation week at 3 a.m, because that's who I am as a person. I started off playing 3.5 and Pathfinder. Pathfinder will always be my one true love, just because I just love watching those numbers go further and further up. But more recently, I've gotten into 5e and also a lot of more indie games powered by the apocalypse, Quest, Blades in the Dark. Always looking for new TTRPGs to learn, just because there's so many out there, other than just D&D, and I'm just very excited to learn as many systems as I possibly can, just so I have a large repertoire. But yeah, that's me. Hi guys.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm all about indie systems too, and I love Quest. So, Matt, we'll go to you next.
Well, hello everybody. I'm Matt from Roleplay Chat. We're a bi-weekly discussion podcast about tabletop RPGs. I have guests from all over the community join me for fun deep dives about all kinds of things. Luna joined me for an episode a while back. It was a lot of fun. I've been a game master for about 10 years. I've been playing a number of different tabletop RPGs for about that time as well. I cut my teeth on D&D 4th edition, which was that was the first edition I ran as a game master, and I loved it. I don't care what anybody says. I loved D&D 4th edition. And I'm a role player. I love role play. So anyway, that's me. I play right now. I've been running a lot of Fate, like the Fate system games. I find it really easy to get into. It's really easy to onboard people. I think I've run like 4 or 5 one-shots with new people, trying to get them into the hobby. I had a backlog of my friends IRL who wanted to play, but then the pandemic happened and then I couldn't. But anyway, I love Fate. It's a lot of fun. It makes for fun role play. And I'm currently learning Vampire the Masquerade. So we're going to see how that goes. But that's a fun, very gritty, very dark role-playing game as well.
Yes, that's awesome. And yes, I've been on Matt's podcast before, and it was a lot of fun. So definitely give that a check if you haven't listened to it in the past. Tal, we'll head over to you.
Hello, my name's Tal. You can catch me on Twitter at The Gamer's Rest. Because I'm an old man, my first introduction to role-playing games was Dragonlance, way back in the day. So that's kind of where I started, and so most of my experience is AD 5e, that kind of thing. I do a bit of writing and supplements and building my own adventures. Currently running my own homebrew with a wonderful group of friends who thoroughly enjoy that thing of deciding they'll speak to that one NPC who I haven't written any backstory for whatsoever, and I've then got to come up with stuff that will last a couple of sessions. And also a little bit of Monster of the Week as well. So just starting to find my way around that a little bit too.
Awesome.
That's me.
Great. Well, thank you for coming on tonight. I'm excited to have you. And Tyler, did you get everybody's names and what they do down?
I did.
Okay, good.
Now I have that nailed down, and I can definitely say I feel very meager in comparison to the levels of experience here. I'm a dungeon master as well. I've only been playing for about 3 years with my friends. I basically forced inside of our house to play. None of us had any experience. None of us had ever seen anything. I've watched a campaign once or twice, and now it's turned into we stream 2 different games, play a third game on the side. Every Saturday is at least one, and been trying to get into other kinds of games other than just D&D 5e because I have heard some amazing things about all sorts of kinds, but I just don't have the time to learn all of them immediately, and that's saddening. But I've tried Visor role-playing system, which was just a quick, fun way to basically play the game without having the use of dice, with like a lot of assortment of dice. And then I recently recorded an episode of Savage World Deadlands, and that system takes some inspiration from D&D 5e, but it's very... at least the style that we played was very Western and very fun. So I'm super excited for whenever that comes out.
Nice. That is very cool. Well,
Luna,
thank you.
can I
Yeah.
say, Tyler, it doesn't matter. Experience as a game master is not only based on the amount of years you've played. I've been outshined by brand spanking new game masters all the time. I think it's like a number of things. Experience is just... It's not just a number. I'll say that.
No, that's fair.
Yeah.
It's just people coming out with double digits. So I'm like, I'm over here with like my little 3 just hanging out.
I would say it's more of a...
based on how long you've been playing. That's nonsense.
I've seen Twitter comments. I get that.
You're right.
I would
Twitter
say
is the
it's-
truth of the source of all truth.
I would say it's more of a mindset than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
It's...
I mean, there's still
yeah.
tons of things that you forget, like, even now.
Yeah.
If you sort of talk about, like, statuses, I'm just like, yeah, I'm gonna probably need to look that up because I can never remember any of the
It's like
statuses. So.
I've guided like Pathfinder for like years, and I still have to look up stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like,
And
That's
it's
who cares
super
if,
crunchy,
you know-
especially first edition.
yeah, like who cares
think-
if like throwaway account 123 on Twitter says that you don't have enough experience for them.
The book's full.
Right.
Read it.
On it personally, I feel for DMing or whatever you want to call it is more about being able to make up rules on the fly rather than being able to look up rules in a book. So if you're good at like improv,
Honestly.
Improv, yeah, exactly. That's
True.
Yeah, when I first started, it was like the most possible worst way to DM. I had a huge list of notes. It was almost like I coded in dialogue trees. And immediately after that, like, this wasn't fun for anybody. I'm throwing all that out, and I'm going to just play how I want to play.
And honestly, one thing that I found really helps with things like dialogue trees is if you can really get into the mindset of the NPCs, know what they want, who they are, what their goals and motivations are, the dialogue will come.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's a tip that I learned from my first and favorite, don't tell anyone, GM.
We're all telling right now.
It wouldn't help if I said this on stream on the internet, but
Yeah. It's all right. It's only going to be on YouTube and podcast. Yeah. They'll
it's never going away now.
well,
It's
he
on
knows
the
I'm your
internet.
favorite. It's fine. It's just because he runs Pathfinder for me, and no one else will.
That's awesome. So welcome, Raiders. I saw all of our friends over from Paradise. I almost said Paradise RPG. It's not Paradise RPG anymore. It's Paradise Productions now. Congratulations to them. And welcome in, Raiders. For those of you who are joining for the first time, this is Tales from the Tavern. This is where chat is in charge of asking all the questions. So if you have a question for our group here, we just dove right into the conversation. Like, we were just like, forget the questions. We're just going to talk.
We are the captains now.
It's true. We're taking over. Well, they're taking over. I'm just along for the ride. And And just go ahead and drop your questions right in chat. I'll have a moderator that will get them to us, so we will make sure that we see them. Also, if you've got channel points, you can use the Ask My Question Next to get your question bumped up to the next one in the queue. So that's available up to 3 times for the night, so feel free to use that if you have the channel points available. So going back to, we were talking a little bit when we first came on, and then a little bit before we even started, we were talking about indie systems, and the Wolf's Blood asked a question saying, what is your favorite TTRPG that also happened to have a recent expansion launch on Kickstarter, and why is it Aether and Steamworks? Have any of you heard of Aether and Steamworks at all?
No.
I feel like a terrible guest saying that, but no.
No, it's a very, very small indie system. It was written and all of the artwork was done by one person. And the only reason I ask is because it's the same person who did all of the artwork for Tales from the Tavern. But
Is it like a steampunk system?
What's that?
Is it like a steampunk system?
Yeah, kind of. It's like steampunk meets magic. The author, Ty Burris, refers to it as aetherpunk. And it's a lot of fun. And if you like chaos, it's even more fun.
Very Eberron.
I definitely recommend people checking it
that
out.
might have used the system.
That's very Eberron. I'd be
It
very
is.
curious to run an aetherpunk system in the world of Eberron. Oh, now I gotta go look.
Yeah, it's a really fun system. I know we were all talking about indie systems, so
Yeah, indie
Wolf's
systems
Blood's
are fun.
Oh, I was just gonna say, Wolf's Blood's gonna drop the Kickstarter link in for anybody who wants to check it out. He's gonna put that in chat.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a look at
Cool.
it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, looks cool. I'm always really fond too of like systems that are extremely micro, like very, very small systems,
Minimal
one-page
kind of.
systems
Yeah.
where you can sit down, spend 10 minutes reading it, and then you're good. And you've got yourself a one-shot figured out for that night or whatever. I have a lot of fun with that kind of stuff.
Those are a lot of fun.
It's like
Have you ever designed one yourself?
Me,
As
no,
in kind of
God,
like-
no, I'm not good enough at that. But have you? Are you? Is this a loaded question? Have you?
Trying to. So at the moment, I'm trying to read quite a few of the kind of solo RPGs. So just that creating your own kind of story, and I'm trying to get my head around how that works and the dice rolls and that kind of thing. So it's just give me a different viewpoint on how to tell a story. It's really quite interesting.
It's funny that you were talking about it being like the solo RPG sort of thing. I've also tried to make one, but it was based off of like a role-playing game called like White Knight Chronicles, which is like a huge. It's got the reason why is because the big aspect of it is that you are basically able to summon a war machine that could take form over you. That's derived of your character and soul and all this other deeper stuff. And it was like, it sounds cool. And I was looking at like how the game was playing. Like, this is, oh god, okay.
Yeah.
I need.
So it's basically JoJo but with mechs.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, in reality,
That's
these
cool.
mechs are like massive, and they're like knights with there's magic, swords, and stuff. It also has like a different way of character building than I played before. So it was really fun to play.
That
on
sounds really
PlayStation.
cool.
They got rid of the servers, so now there's no more online play of it. But oh well, the memories.
Yeah, I'm in several like design and tabletop playtesting like discords, so I'm pretty lucky to know lots of people that make indie titles. And there was one that was just put up on Kickstarter, which I'm really trying to find the name of, as it kind of undermines my point. But and I think they completed their Kickstarter not long ago, but it was all they made all the art themselves, so that was
I'm always
That's really
impressed
cool.
by that play. Because
Yeah.
that for me, that's the one thing. I've got no artistic skills whatsoever.
yeah, me neither.
Yeah, failed my like basic level art exams.
Mhm.
Nothing at all. So anybody that has got that kind of ability, I'm always in awe of.
No steady hands. I have problems
God,
with
no,
that.
it's like-
I tried writing my own one-shot once, and like that didn't get very far. I can't imagine trying to write my own system.
Yeah, I just don't have the imagination to pull up like mechanics. I look at the mechanics of a system and I'm like, you know what, this will work for what I'm looking for. As far as having the imagination to actually dream up my own system, I'm like, no. I write stories, not systems.
Yeah.
There's like two sides of the spectrum.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I actually have real like trouble making like campaigns and stories, and but you know, I'm on my third like tabletop game, so you know, I'm on the other side of that.
Yeah.
And that's
We combine our powers together.
I not so good with people, but you know, mechanics is fine for me. So lucky, I guess. I don't know.
It's just different ways of thinking, isn't it? It's just for some people that comes really naturally, that kind of ability to see that pattern and what will and won't work, and other people it's all about the emotional content and how it comes together.
I guess that comes with being kind of like a software developer, so it kind of like
might have something to do with it.
Pretty good. Like if this, do this, but I had no complaints so far, so I don't know.
Hey, then you're doing something right then, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I found that like as long as like everyone's having fun, nobody's gonna get upset about like, well, if you actually look at the book like this and looking at the mechanics of this sort of thing.
So you've been on Twitter, haven't you?
Okay, I'm talking about at your own table and you're with your friends.
I was going to say,
people are gonna get angry at anything.
Although counterpoint, it's fun. I enjoy having someone at my table who knows the rules inside and out. But we have an agreement where he's not going to undermine me when I make a call. So it's like, if I turn to you and say, hey, what are the rules for grappling? Can you remind me what the rules for grappling are? He's going to tell everybody at the table verbatim what the rules are. So it's really useful. You just got to make sure you're on the same page about if I make a judgment call on the fly, you're not going to turn around and say, well, actually, the rule is this other thing.
I am that player that like, if we go for something that isn't mechanically sound, they'll be like, okay, so this is what the mechanics say. But if you want a rule that, like, we're going to do it, then chill. But I just wanted to let you know this is what the mechanics say.
Yeah.
There's totally different ways.
Yeah, definitely.
I feel like it's lawyering in moderation. Is the best for any of these.
There was a perfect YouTube video that I saw that there was they described them as two different people. There's rules traditionalists who enjoy seeing the game played as like by the book, but they're more lenient and obviously willing to work with everyone. Then there's the rules lawyer that is attempting to only do it if it either benefits them, someone that is at the table, or is they give no leeway. And that's where there's like a lawyer whose job is to fight for a certain person. So they'll fight for themselves or the other person because of the rules.
And honestly, it drives me nuts when rules lawyers choose to only be rules lawyers when it benefits their character. Like,
I was going to say exactly that.
Exactly, because like
it's never for someone else.
Lawyer, do it both ways.
Yeah.
Like if someone has advantage and I hit against you, let them have the advantage. Like
it's like be consistent, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like I forget everything in our games constantly. Running like 17 different enemies and 7 players. If one of the players forgets something and I forget it, I'm like, all right, well, I'm not going to retract world. But at the same time, if a player is tells me the truth, like, oh, actually, I would have had disadvantage on that attack because of this. I'm like, great, have an inspiration because I didn't pay attention. Here you go. You're playing by the books and you're playing truthfully. That's what everyone's there for. To be
honestly, I think GM given inspiration is underused and underappreciated.
Yeah, definitely.
It's hard.
Yeah, like reward people for like doing things in character, not only things that are beneficial to them, but like if a character would do something that in a non-horrifically destructive way would like create a setback for the party or for themselves, and they do it anyway, reward that. Like I really like the idea of that, and I love the idea of kind of rewarding characters for making choices that they know are going to suck for their character.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if only everybody kind of played,
nice,
to their character, but
we got to be careful, though, guys. We got to be careful because when people say, "Oh, but that's what my character would do," that's a whole other ballpark. But I agree with you.
Hence the non-horrifically destructive way, because I've been on the wrong end of the "that's what my character would do" multiple times, and oh my god.
That's like its own 2-hour stream topic right there.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for bringing that up.
That happens, and boy, do I have a story.
I'm sure we could all like spend like at least a day just telling stories of that character or that player.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Positivity today. Positivity.
Right. Yes, exactly.
But you're right. I mean, most of the characters I play have got low charisma, and then I suddenly find myself talking. I'm like, yeah, he's just going to keep talking, and straight away the rest of my group are going, shut up. But that's just what my character does.
Yeah.
So
He
The
likes
best
to
thing is
talk,
rolling-
which is fine.
he loves to talk, but
The best thing is rolling like a natural 1 on a charisma check and being like, that'll be a 1 for a total of 0.
Hero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, those negative initiative rolls, top notch.
Wait, what?
Oh man, I played a character that had I think because we rolled for stats, I think I got a 5, and I was like, I'll be wearing heavy armor. I'll just throw it into Dex, whatever. And then initiative card, and I'm like, all right, I got a -2.
Wow.
You're going in rounds.
I go next round, pretty much. What did this question start with? I don't even remember where we got to this from.
We were talking about indie systems, and then we just kind of went from there. However, I can launch us into a new question, which kind of goes along with what we were talking about.
Oh,
Nikki, Beholder to No One, would like to know, what are your thoughts on borrowing ideas from other systems to make the game more fitting to your needs, i.e. using the Shadowrun Contact or Loyalty NPC system in D&D 5e?
Love
yes.
Okay,
there's a big finite line between though borrowing and then claiming.
Yeah.
If you're using it for your game and everything like that, altering certain things by all means, never claim it as your own if you've altered somebody else's. That's a big thing with us. It's like we like to just use certain things from other systems. But it's never like, oh, it's a system that I've designed and stuff like
it's
that.
Like, it's just that meme. Oh, you've made that? No, I've made that. Thank you. it's mine now. I think. Oh, go on, sorry.
Sorry, I was going to say. I think that we all know 5e isn't. It's not the be all and end all. It's got its issues and concerns. So of course you're going to go, well, actually, this rule over here makes a lot more sense in my settings. I'm just going to slide that in and absolutely give credit where credit's due, but we will all the time. We're always borrowing stuff from each other, and how many times been in a session where you've gone, that's a much better way of dealing with that. I'm definitely taking that back home with me.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and I think people should do it. Like in your home game, you should go read other RPG systems. You should, especially like, let's say you're having like a sailing game. Google's right there. Google's your friend. Look up systems that are really good at sailing. Find 7th Sea or some other really good sailing system, and then find a way to modify that into the system that you like and that you're more familiar with. Because I don't want to like shame people that use the same system over and over and over again. Like if you like D&D and you want to run D&D all the time, power to you. But it's still just one tool in your toolbox, right? So you can't just expect to use a hammer on everything. Like you got a screw. Don't try to use a hammer on a screw. Try to figure out if there's a screwdriver that you can like attach to the hammer. Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
I wholeheartedly think
workshop class.
I wholeheartedly think that it does make you a better GM by obviously reading other stuff. You don't obviously have to use that stuff because not everything's going to be applicable to a game you're running. But just having it there helps when you're improving rules. Because that, like, as you said, like sailing. Yeah, 7th Sea has some great rules, but it doesn't really fit. Well, I'm just going to put 2 things together instead. It's like, maybe I'll come up with something nice. Even if you don't, you still have it. Like, it doesn't, you don't just forget it as soon as you're done with it.
And
Exactly.
even if you're looking something directly from another system, it does, like Matt was saying, like it does give you those tools, and there's a huge chance that if the system you're playing doesn't have the mechanic that you're looking for, if there is something that you kind of want to turn into a mechanic, you just have this many more systems that can give you even so much as an idea of where to start than just absolutely nothing, even if it's just a basic foundation.
Yeah,
I think
take
it's
inspiration
interesting.
from other things. It doesn't even have to be other systems. It could be like a game or a board game.
Yeah.
We like last year we did a Halloween one shot, and we used the Visor roleplay system, which like has stats that the characters build rather than just being like numerical points and stuff, because they're building a character to effectively roleplay as. So if your character's good at this, they should be good at that. And it's like doesn't need to have certain stats, but something that I thought would be interesting for the Halloween one shot is if anybody's played Betrayal at House on the Hill, it's a board game where if your stats hit 0, you die. So I was like, this could be an interesting aspect where rather than just like using wound tokens or whatever that the players in the system would use, their individual stats would lower and they're slowly getting more tired and worn down by doing certain tasks. It seems like more interesting and more immersive to me than just being like, oh, you're injured, here's a penalty.
So it's like multiple tracks of health, basically.
Yeah, because if one thing is weakened, sure, you could you say your arm is hurt, you're still going to run at full speed, you're not going to be like stopped or anything. There's like a whole other couple of systems that we use too, but
I imagine that would slow down, like, for death spiral, that you find in most games as well, because you're not just taking health, like taking wound damage, and you can't fight as effective, and you just die essentially. But yeah, it's more realistic, as you said. So
I think it's the more you kind of expose yourself to other systems as well, there's always that chance you're going to go, do you know what, actually I'm taking so much from this other system, maybe I should swap completely to a different system entirely, because actually I've exposed myself to a different way of looking at things. I mean, some amazing games out there which probably don't give enough credit to or don't see enough of in the kind of mainstream media.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I was actually playing so before Blades in the Dark that I was playing, we were playing a system in another Powered by the Apocalypse system called the Sprawl. About halfway through that game, our MC, Master of Ceremonies, for those of you who don't know what MC stands for, it's basically the Powered by the Apocalypse version of Game Master, Dungeon Master, whatever. He realized, like, you know what? I think this other system in that little conglomerate, it's called the Veil, works better. So we just switched. Like, it takes a little bit of work and a little bit of recalibrating, but it's worth it if it fits the gameplay better, if that makes sense.
yeah.
Wholehearted.
In the long run, it will be more fluid for everyone.
And it was. It was. I died, but it was.
And just more fun. I mean, that's
Exactly.
ultimately what you're going for. If you're finding the game's getting stuck down in rules or people just aren't enjoying it, that kind of switch up can have such a dramatic effect that suddenly it's something brand new and people are that much more engaged.
Going back to like the whole getting inspiration from like other sources of media, I personally find for video games, so obviously I'm a gamer, so that's gonna be a huge source of inspiration for me. Like just looking at other games and stuff can give you quite a lot of obviously inspiration for maybe if you're trying to add new feats to like D&D or something, or new spells, for instance, because in my experience, this might come out as a bit like, I don't know, I'm not particularly big on 5e, let's put it like that.
That's fine.
And like the spell system and like character creation is a bit lower down from my list. So whenever I unwillingly DM for a group and they're like begging me to play 5e, I tend to take stuff from video games and try and add that in, mainly for my own benefit. And just giving them small little tidbits of like feats, and like it just helps generally. It keeps, as you said, keeps things fresh. Yeah.
Do you have an example of a feat that you've used from inspiration in a video game? I'm very curious.
So stuff like most of the abilities from like League of Legends are very, very good because they're designed to be fluid when used in combat. I'm not sure how much you've played of it, but
I played a while back, like when runes were still a thing.
Okay, so that's a while back. So stuff like moving through walls as just for a fighter, for example, literally going through matter and then flanking, giving them more bonuses to flanking, or being able to literally just throw other people, or like redirect projectiles as a fighter rather than maybe a monk, for example. Because why wouldn't the fighter be able to deflect? That sort of stuff. It doesn't seem like much, but in battle, people they're a bit surprised when you pull that out as like a GM. It kind of puts them off guard a bit. So.
I think that's definitely true for me, for like designing different magic spells. So, you know, the amount of stuff that is in video games that you can go, well, actually, wouldn't that make a great effect for a spell, or just tweaking one of the ones that's already existing? You can definitely get a lot from that, and obviously there's lots of media sources you can get stuff from. But yeah, being not necessarily a hardcore gamer, but a gamer myself, there's often times where I'll just have to put the controller down and just make some notes for myself, because I'm thinking, do you know what? Actually, that could be something really spectacular. I'd love to.
You get that little like cog turning.
Yeah.
It's like that is actually quite good. Yeah, I'll take that.
It's a really good idea.
From the other side of that spectrum too, I'm not much of a mechanics guy, but especially now that we're going into spooky, scary Halloween time, I like getting inspiration from. There's all these really cool compendiums of like horror short story books of like 15, 20 short stories. They make really good one shots. Like even if you go find some of the classics, like some Edgar Allan Poe, brush up on the story and like just get the ambiance that's there, or some of the, you know, any of the Cthulhu compendiums out there make really good stuff. I've recently been reading. I'm a bit of an otaku sometimes, and I've been reading a lot of Junji Ito. He's a manga artist who makes like horrific horror like stories,
body horror and stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of messed up stuff, but but they're really quick to get through. As a father of two now, I don't have a whole lot of spare time on my hands, so you can read through, you know, one story in like 15 minutes. You got yourself great inspiration for a nice horror one shot with some buddies. Definitely worth checking into.
One I liked was I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. I'm not sure how much you.
Yeah.
That,
I mean,
it's
Spiral
really
is the end all be all of his horror for me, but
Honestly,
I don't know if the name.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, go. No. Okay. Thanks. Not used to people saying that, but okay. What's the fish one? Yeah, you know what I'm on about, but
I'm on mute. Yeah, that's a great one.
I can't remember the name, but it's that's gonna bug me all night now.
Oh, we can just Google it. We'll find it.
But
yeah,
okay,
no,
it'll come to you like
Google
10
fish
minutes
one.
after we end the stream, and then we'll have to go back live again, because
We'll be in like the middle of another question. You'll be like, "It's this! I knew it! It's right there!"
oh my gosh. Well, while you're looking that up,
sorry, Gio or Gio, GYO. Sorry.
Yo?
Yeah.
Yo.
There we go.
all right.
Does that mean fish in Japanese? I don't know.
It does not.
No.
Oh, you know Japanese?
I am Japanese.
Oh, well, I mean that.
What is fish in Japanese? Do you know?
Oh, on the spot now.
Fish is sakana.
Okay,
Sakana?
cool.
Interesting.
But it does, like, the Wikipedia page does just say fish.
Okay.
I'm just imagining a Wikipedia page with one word of description: fish.
No pictures, just the
Just a blank page: fish.
That's it. That's the story. Oh, the Enigma of Amigara Fault. Oh my goodness, I love that one. Anyway.
But now you all know how to say fish in Japanese, and that makes this an educational stream. You're welcome.
I've already forgotten.
You can officially put that tag on now.
Yeah.
Fuck it, Rosetta Stone.
Oh.
Yes, it is I, the half Japanese. My mom wasn't able to teach me Japanese, so I took it in college. So I know some of it, but not as much as I should.
Fair enough. All right. Let's see. We're gonna jump to Jim the Dim's question. So Jim would like to know, what is your favorite non-homebrew setting?
Eberron.
What was it? You cut out for just a second.
Eberron.
Oh, yep.
I love Eberron. It was my first world for my very first actual full Pathfinder game. I don't know if it's because it was my first or if it's because I like the world. I don't really care. It's just my favorite. I love it. It's my baby.
I am unfortunately never played in a non-homebrew world. So when we first started, I started DMing through Horde of the Dragon Queen and Tavern and everything like that. So I don't know a lot about all the other worlds or anything like that.
I mean, Tavern counts.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was... Yeah, I immediately turned it around and stopped using it, and it's now more homebrew than it is Faerun, but oh well.
Yeah. I love Chex Notes Winter Deep.
I don't think I've only played in one non-homebrew setting, and that was Planescape.
Okay.
Which technically is every setting, but we'll forget about that for now. But yeah, I loved it. Obviously, that was 2E. That was 10 years ago? 11, something like that. First year of uni, so that was fun. That was with my housemates, so we had a lot of time. Let's say, yeah, first year.
Does anybody else find running in existing settings extremely intimidating?
There's a lot of lore that you have to learn, whereas if you homebrew your own world, you already know everything by the time you run something in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Or if you make it up, it's fine,
Right,
because
nobody else
planned it
knows.
all along.
Right. If someone asks you a question that you don't know the answer to, yes, you do. You'll make it up right there.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's why I could never run in a Star Wars game or something. I could just never do it. Not in a million years, because there's going to be somebody who knows more about Star Wars than me.
The only thing I could ever run comfortably without having to do a whole bunch of research is Lord of the Rings. Just give me a Lord of the Rings setting and I will give you obscure names and obscure facts every other step of the way.
There you go.
Anything else, I'm hopeless.
I've only seen the first movie, so...
I think the
have
best part...
one ring.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, wow.
It doubles as an ace ring on the wrong hand, but whatever.
I think the best part of having a non kind of canon, so to speak, is for players kind of make it with you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you obviously don't know something or you haven't prepared something for that week, I typically just go, what's here? And somebody will make something up. Half the time it's not really helpful, but the other half is actually rather, creative. And yeah, it's really useful to have 4, 5, 6 other people there to help you make a setting.
I mean,
Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying that very similarly. So the first one I think was Dragonlance, and that's probably the only one I've ever run myself. The rest of the time, it's all been homebrews, just for that freedom of no idea what's over that hill, but let's find out together, and who knows what's going to happen, and that's quite exciting. So, especially when at the end your players turn and go, "That was amazing, really enjoyed it. It was great that you got it all planned out." And once they're going, Nothing was planned. I made it all up.
There you
You're
go.
just lucky you got a story out of it at the end.
I started it 5 minutes before the session.
Yeah, exactly.
When did we
Yikes.
start?
Yeah.
Ooh, let me keep that to myself.
So
It's like-
Nikki said in chat that she said, my favorite thing that I was told is it's your Faerun, it's your Eberron. It doesn't matter what the lore says.
Yep.
Which I think is really, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Like,
that's
we have-
nice, but somebody worked so hard, or a team of people worked so hard to create that setting, like, you know, the counterpoint.
Mhm.
And I don't know, I feel like I owe it to them to do justice to their creation. It's their baby, but maybe that's just me.
I mean, it's also a form of honoring it if you kind of like build on what they already have, right? Or even if you change something that you feel fits better. Like one of the core plot points in my last, sorry, not my last, my first Eberron campaign. There have been two. Was apparently the result of a 1 year's NaNoWriMo from my GM. You know, just this not really innocuous, it was terrifying, but innocuous little fortress in the middle of the forest. A little bit west of Fairhaven. Like it was such a cool central plot point that really integrated super well with the lore of the world. So like, I feel like you can absolutely honor a setting and the creators of that setting, while also adding like your own little twist to it.
That's fair.
That's the thing. It's never, you know, whilst it's every setting's got key things, it's not everything that exists in that world. So, you know, putting your own little piece in the middle somewhere not going to have an impact. And people that get really upset about that kind of thing, that's a whole different group of people, isn't it? To be fair.
Yeah, that's a whole different discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get where you're coming from, though, for sure, because it's like, this is a project that has clearly been made for however long it took to be made, and it's like that weird, almost guilty feeling to like use that but not utilize that. But no, I agree with it does change things to be able to sort of wrap it around your own sort of world's direction.
Yeah, I think that kind of goes back to taking inspiration from other stuff as well. Because you might not use a setting, but there's themes and parts of a setting that you might want to use, really.
That's poetic. That's good.
I find that like some settings, although like there's a hell of a lot of work put into them, I find that some are harder to kind of mold into what you want than others. And I personally just find it quite a lot easier to just make something up than try and bash something.
It's like two puzzle pieces not fitting. It's like, I'm going to make this fit.
Basically,
have you ever come across something where there's too much information? The kind of granular detail, and you're just like, you know what, actually, this is stifling the kind of play and creativity.
Not so much in a specific setting, but when I was playing Stars Without Number, a lot of for randomness, everything was random. So all the planets and all sectors and everything, and it was giving a lot of information about stuff which I could have just made up, because it was going down to like the governmental level, which usually like D&D, fine. You know, you want to know if they're dictatorship or, you know, anything else. But here it was just kind of like the level 1. You don't need all that, you know? They're not going to be toppling governments anytime soon, basically.
Not successfully at level 1 anyway, but...
Not successfully. Or they might, you
annoy
know?
some guards. That's about it. Like, just be a nuisance to some guards.
Maybe they're just a really incompetent government that could be done.
I
No, it consists of two people.
I was going to say, we talk about the UK or...
I mean, I can say that's real life right now.
Yeah.
Is that art imitating life at this point? Yeah.
I mean, I've been reading up a lot about Vampire the Masquerade because I'm hoping to run a game. There's no way. I'm gonna go out and say it. It's not gonna happen before Halloween. It was supposed to happen for Halloween. It's not gonna happen. And man, there's so much lore in those books. I just can't figure it out. Maybe I'm like simple and I'm having too hard of a time because I'm not sleeping enough. But oh my god, it's the first like 30 pages of the player's handbook is just like letters between characters, and it's like, oh,
Yeah.
this is great, but what's the game?
Like, there is such a thing
game...
as too much information. It's like
Yeah, definitely.
it's like there was a post going around Twitter at some point that was talking about like the difference between like a full like novel explaining your homebrew setting or like a page-long primer. Like one is going to be easier and more accessible in terms of someone coming in and consuming it for the first time. Like it's always good that I feel to have something detailed if you want to, but don't force everyone else to consume all of it. If someone's just here to play the game, give them a primer. If they ask for more, be like, hey, there's more if you want it.
Yeah.
One of the best pieces of advice that I got when I kind of got into writing was let the players imagine it rather than, obviously, show don't tell, but it's better if you just don't show at all and let them imagine how it is there. Like you could go into detail about how the farms gather up their grain and take it to the market and, you know, sell it and turn it into bread or whatever. But it's like you could just like show that their items are rusted or the country doesn't have a lot of metal, so they're having to make do. Like it's small things like that, and I think maybe a lot of newer content creators, so to speak, kind of get into that mindset of having to show everything. Maybe I don't know why, but
Yeah,
But
and
that's just
a
kind of
balance,
my
right?
experience.
Oh, go ahead, Ty.
So you don't see that kind of thing in films, do you? There's you know,
No.
it doesn't go into that kind of minute detail. Every day, brushing teeth, going to that kind of stuff. It just doesn't happen, and we're expected to just fill those bits in, and it should, in my opinion, be the same with your settings. And especially when you're starting out, you want people to kind of draw on their own experiences as to what it looks like. It makes it a bit more personal for them in some ways, rather than, you know, here's 30 minutes of me telling you every single thing about what you need to know, and it's like,
like human imagination is the most powerful. Like,
yeah, and if they want to know more details about something, they'll just ask.
Mm-hmm. There's also some people that just don't retain any of it. Like I know if I sat down for 30 minutes and was like telling my players about all this stuff, one person who already has played that setting would know about it. The rest of them be like,
yeah, bite-sized pieces. Bite-sized pieces.
or there's always one player that's kind of like distracted by something else, and it's like, do you have to go through half an hour again? You know, it's always one player.
Always the one.
At least.
Well, at least, yeah. But yeah.
All right.
Next question.
Next question is from Lord Richter. Lord Richter would like to know, going the opposite direction, what is your favorite homebrewed campaign element, whether that's a country, religion, continent, guild, etc.?
So in our home game, it's not streamed or anything. It's just mainly because my friend was like, I want to play more, so I'm going to make a game. You're playing in it. Like, cool. He has, in his world, there was a war between the devils and angels, and the material plane was just sort of the mixed-match battlefield for them. And later down the road, there are those with devil blood and those with angel blood. And as a result of that, they have always been at bitter rivalry, even if it was subconscious. So one of our players has angel blood and one of our players has demon blood, and they've never gotten together like coherently. So it's like, as a result of like this in-world sort of story element that they homebrewed in, there's always that sort of I've lost the train of thought or lost the word there, but basically it just made it more immersive to have two of the players on each end of the spectrum.
That sounds cool.
I'm trying to think.
Angel blood. That's kind of neat.
Yeah, like he did a few things with like if certain demons' weapons if they were to attack you. If they hit you, you're like demonically poisoned, which can like burn the blood as well as moving it forwards. Those that have angel blood are immune to the effect, and it's vice versa from angels to demon blood.
Cool. Did they make like did your game master make races like explicitly for people who are angel blood and demon blood, or is this just like an abandoned?
It's the way that he had it work is those who had direct contact in the war between the angels and devils, if they had direct contact with one side versus the other, then their blood would contract to them depending on what occurred at that point. Like our friend was, he had been an accidental casualty. I say casualty because I can't think of the word. He got hit as a byproduct of the war by a demonic weapon.
Collateral.
Collateral, thank you.
Anything.
My brain was melting for a second.
Gotcha.
Yeah, he got hit by collateral damage, and that's how he developed the demonic blood. And now we're trying to track down the one demon that caused it. It's a whole thing that's really interesting for his character's backstory.
Okay, I'm
Cool.
gonna jump in on this one.
Yeah, go for it, Luna.
One of my favorites is not in a system or a game that I played, but it's in a podcast that I listened to, and the Lawful Great Adventures campaign. The GM created an entire pantheon, and like redid all of the gods for Pathfinder First Edition, and it was just like, everything in the entire world like relates to these gods and how they interact with the world and what each one symbolizes. And there's one point when they go to a city and the city's divided into different well, not really quadrants, but different sections, and each one is named after one of the gods. And, so they go to one and it's like super quiet and nobody really talks with each other, which is exactly how like that god is. And then you go to another one and it's all like taverns and alcohol and loud and party and I just loved that he took the time to do that, and then how he was able to weave it into the story was just like chef's kiss.
I'm gonna take this in a separate direction, if that's okay. I mean, I have a lot of cool examples, but something that I love to do in a homebrew setting, especially when it's like a group of friends, you're gonna play together in this setting, is to use this thing. It's a game basically. It's called Dawn of Worlds. I don't know if you've ever heard of it before. It's this one night game where you create the world that you're going to play in. So there's different ages that you play through. You start by like physically drawing the geography of the space, putting in mountain chains, putting in rivers, putting in bodies of water, etc., etc. Then you generate the races and you put them in like civilizations and you help them grow and decline. And then you have conflict between the different people who populate this continent. And it's all systematized, so every action you do counts like you have to spend points to do it. And it's really something that you're going to spend all night playing for your first game. But what I've experienced in doing that is every time I do that with a group of friends, they get so much out of it and they get so invested in the world because they have literally created it from the get-go. And then you're saying, now we're going to play in this. Now we're going to use this as our setting for the next 20, 30, 50 games or whatever. And it's free to play. You go find it on itch.io or on DriveThruRPG. I'm sure you can find a PDF on Google. Dawn of Worlds, check it out. I have no idea who the author is. I'm not plugging in somebody that I know. But definitely check it out. Like it makes for a really fun homebrewed experience. Truly
awesome.
Collaborative. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds like.
It's like literally taking the term home brewed, because in your home you develop the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really neat. It's pretty simple too. Like the rules aren't too complicated. You can really get hammered out in one sitting.
Awesome.
See a cat.
Yeah.
Kitty cat.
She's sick right now, so she was starting to yell a little bit, so I decided to go and get her.
Aww. Well, this is
Can we see her?
yeah, hold her up.
Freya.
Oh.
Her eye looks like that because she's been dehydrated. She apparently has a really bad infection. So she's hanging out with me because she was yelling a little bit.
Yeah.
That cattle.
Bless.
Want to keep an eye on her.
Well, this is probably a good time for us to take a pause for a break anyway. So so you can spend some time giving some pats to your kitten. I will go and pet mine too. And we can all refill our drinks and hashtag free the pee. And yeah, there's a story there. And all that good stuff. So we will be back in just a few minutes. And if we haven't answered your question yet, we will get to it as soon as we are back from the break. So we'll see you in just a few. And we're back. We had a quick break tonight. So we are going to jump right back in with everybody's questions. And let's see. The next question that we had came from David Tilstra. And David's question is, question, with lots of exclamation points. What would your characters or NPCs be for Halloween? I warned you all that this was coming.
I'm gonna roll a d8 for which character I answer for.
Yeah, like, how do I answer? I have 15 original characters on by themselves. Like, you want me to list up for NPCs?
So
My favorite? I started with 2. That's not helpful. They're directly related.
Well, on the bright side, I rolled a d8 to figure out which character to answer for, so I'm just going to start us off. I rolled for the character named Kyra, who is a half-elf storm sorcerer. She would dress up as I think like a zombie scientist. She has a history with her backstory is basically she's a sorcerer because scientists were like, a person, what happens if we pump them full of lightning? And she was like, ow. And she doesn't like scientists very much, so zombie scientist.
There you go.
So I've got a Dragonborn cleric, and we keep finding bones, which may or may not be his. So I'm pretty sure he probably dressed up as a skeleton. One of the other players actually has a hand he keeps in his backpack of probably on my finger bones. So yeah, skeleton.
I guess if I were to choose one, this one would be one of the ones that I think would be found more funny than anything else. Alucard Vera the First. He is a warlock genie, and I can't remember what they're actually called. I think that might be one of those. But he has in his interdimensional little device a friend of his known as Schmidt, who is just like a impish sort of person. I think they would swap clothes. So he would be dressed up as his impish friend Schmidt, as Schmidt would be then dressed up as the very like over the top, colorful. Basically, imagine Aladdin just dressed up in that sort of garb and colors as a small impish man who hates everything to do with him. Just angrily dressed as Alucard. Because his whole thing is trying to start a legacy. That's why he's the first. And eventually they'll become the second, third, somewhere down the line. Whether that's through family, whether that's through events, or through other people, whoever knows. But yeah, he would definitely just dress up as his little impish friend, as he would angrily dress up as himself.
I really like that you're saying that, Tyler, because my character would also do something relatively similar. The character that I picked his name is Diedrich. He's a astromancer in the world of Warhammer, which is like a fortune teller mixed with a wizard. So a lot of like divination spells and things like this. And in our party, there's a priest of Sigmar, think like a cleric, like a fighting cleric, basically. And the two of them have a very healthy relationship, but also they poke fun at each other. And I'm sure that Diedrich would dress up as a priest of Sigmar as a joke to be like, this is what I think of your magic. You know, it's Halloween worthy. It's like costume worthy. So I think that would be, that'd be a fun interaction too to have like between the two characters. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Cool. So my latest character is in Starfinder is a Solarian Echian, or essentially a pony. And she would probably either go as some future form of like Ghost Rider, kind of like the flaming horse, because
Cool.
technically she can set herself on fire anyway, or as kind of the headless horseman, or maybe a centaur sort of thing.
That'd be funny.
And just maybe just have a floppy top half, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
If you did a headless centaur, it would be a headless horseman.
There you go.
Yeah.
Perfect.
For
There you
first
go.
pun of the night.
There it is.
Yeah,
Where's
that's actually,
put the tally?
Yeah.
I'm actually impressed that took me like an hour and 11 minutes to get there. I was thinking about something cleric, fighter cleric, fleric, but
You're welcome, because I
but
set
the
that up for
headless
you.
horseman is
Yeah.
really a
was-
good one to shine.
It's good
We
fun.
did
I
all
thought you were
fronts to
going
laugh,
towards, like-
so
Thank you.
400
Light laughter,
IQ
please, thank
play.
you.
It was genuinely funny. I like that.
that was good.
I was-
Yeah.
For some reason,
It was,
when you were talking about your character, I thought that you were gonna go into like. I think it'd be really funny if they just dressed up as like a My Little Pony, just
Oh my God.
completely like over the top, colorful.
It would be a genuinely funny joke.
That wasn't as good. But
The number of times that everyone I meet makes that joke at least once, so I feel like I have to make a joke once.
It's
It didn't even cross my mind.
She's
Yep.
actually not that far off. I just put her in the chat for you guys, obviously.
Oh, really? I'm curious.
Now I have to look.
She's
Yeah,
not
exactly.
that far off.
Oh my
Oh my
gosh!
god, I love them. I love the
For-
scarf.
Fortunately, she kind of turns into that
Oh,
afterwards.
that is
She's like
awesome.
Battle Cat from He-Man, but a pony.
That'd be. That is a perfect rendition of what to describe that. That is perfect.
Oh my goodness, I love it.
yeah.
I've answered this question a couple of times about my character Edabrick. So I was thinking about my character Evie, who was in Pathfinder First Edition, and she was a shapeshifter. And so she would probably like get super into the whole idea. She shapeshifted into a bear. And so I think she would like totally buy into the whole thing, but she would just dress up as a bear instead of like shifting because it didn't last that long. So she would like, make like a, fur cloak or something like that and just walk around and be like roar all the time, but really badly. So
That must be pretty
Mini
unbearable
costume,
for
and not
them.
really a tryhard costume.
yeah.
Love it.
I caught the pun. You're okay.
Thank you.
All right. Let's see. Moving on. We've got another question from Nikki. And Nikki's next question is, what are your thoughts on relationships, family growth, etc. in games if a player wants to do that?
I
have
love
opinions. Go.
it. Well,
Yeah, go ahead.
sorry.
No, I thought you.
I'll give you an actual example that my character has been through. So currently in my Starfinder game, she has a girlfriend, mare friend. So it's normal Starfinder essentially, but my DM has kind of homebrewed her race and another set of races, which are basically Anthro. And she has a girlfriend of the Anthro versions. And I personally think that depending on the game and the theme and the setting, it can only add to the story. Now, on the other side of that, it does heavily depend on the players. And how much they can kind of, what's the word for it? Kind of separate game and emotion. because there's been several times where in the game I'm in, she's been hurt, and my character has been hurt because of her, and that's just added to the whole story and everything. And essentially, I love it when GMs do this, because I get very attached to characters very easily, and when they get hurt, it's tears. And in essence, yeah, I love it. Sorry, I went on a tangent there, but
No,
It's all good.
nice.
they're all relevant. I agree. I think it can only realistically add to it. I think that there should be a capping point for interactions, I feel. And by that, I mean, like, if it's at any point makes people uncomfortable with, like, oh my God, what's it called? Public signs of affection.
PDA.
It can start to get too much if people are being very into that, and that's when there needs to be some discussion and like a gap or a capping point.
Yeah.
But it can add to the story. I have in the main campaign that we first started, that we stream, the one of the players had a individual they were starting a family with, and later down the road, they learned of something. Basically, each of the players had to make it the longest possible story turn into like a sentence. Everybody had a curse that they thought was a boon from a god, and as a result, they learned that of the curse and the repercussions of it, and said player made the conscious decision that that curse directly affected the family and had to do something about it. And that's turned a already pretty severe moment into an emotional one. And that in of itself can further bring the story even into a higher light. And I think that that can make it so involved for that character and that player specifically that it can then branch out to helping others in their circumstances.
Yeah.
There just has to be that capping point. You can't go too far with certain things.
Like, kind of building off of that, I definitely agree that relationships and NPCs that have direct and meaningful connections to a PC are very, very important. I think they bring a really interesting level of depth to the story, and it's more of a personal thing than just here are some quests to go on. Some of these quests are like can be personally relevant. Like, oh, like my mom's been kidnapped. That's more compelling to me than go rescue this princess, right? That said, I am big on the cap. Not quite in the same way that you were, Ty. It, like, absolutely correct. Like, I'm fully on board. I would add to that, though, and say that I would also put a cap on in-game time spent on it, because I'm gonna be real. I have had the experience where I was in a game. A character had a girlfriend. Awesome. Good for her. Love it. Delightful. I and two other players got to sit through an hour of that player and that NPC going on a one-on-one date, and I wasn't into it. Like,
exactly.
I think that meaningful interactions like that, if the players have all been asked, are you okay with us doing this on, like, in game? Are you okay with us doing an hour-long one-on-one scene? And if the players say yes, great, go ahead and do it. But, like, I didn't sign up for that. Honestly, like, I like to do things like that on like a one-on-one mini session. Almost like I really don't mind like a few minutes of like, hey, like my girlfriend has some information, we have to go talk to her. And like, 10, 15 minutes, whatever. But like, I wasn't into sitting for an hour and listening to them go all gooey. Like, it was delightful. It was adorable. But like, it was an hour long and I had better things to do.
I haven't experienced that, and the thought didn't even come to my mind. So I completely agree with you, for sure.
And I'm gonna
because like I wouldn't if that happened to me, I'd be like, okay, we should do this outside of game because I don't want to make 3 other people listen to this while I just go on and like I wouldn't even think to do that because like I would never assume that an entire table of people want to just watch me go on a date for an hour.
Yeah,
Plus,
and if
it
I
would
can
be
take
like
that,
it would be like having people watch you go on a date. And that's just like, you don't need
And I'm
an
like-
audience for that. They're awkward
Yeah.
enough as it is.
Yeah, like if you want to have like a long interaction, by all means do it, but you should do it out of game because like in-game sessions are kind of for the whole party.
Yeah.
I feel that kind of that goes better in text chat, really.
Yeah.
Like actually role play it out in text chat
Right.
with other people, and if they want to like read it, they can. But it
Yeah.
doesn't. You're not overshadowing everyone else with those NPCs.
And I
'cause
will
at that
admit-
point, it just becomes a DM NPC.
Yeah.
It's like
And like
kinda,
I will admit a little bit, I was a little passive aggressive about it. I was like anytime I had like a soul scene after that, I was like, well, I don't want to monopolize the session. Let's just move this along. And like I feel a little bit about that part, but
I think you need that good, strong, when you're setting up the campaign as to, you know, what is acceptable, what isn't acceptable, having those
Set the
discussions.
rules,
so that you don't fall into that kind of trap. I tend to, so with my campaign, I've very much been driven by how much information they've given me when they've done their backstories. So one of my groups given me this amazing backstory. They've got tons of brothers and sisters. And so I've put them in jeopardy, and there's a whole kind of storyline about, you know, they've caught a glimpse of a possible future where their brother's going to be in a lot of trouble. Will they be able to get there in time to kind of save him? And it's created this really interesting kind of, we've got this main quest, but we need to do this as well, and they're both time sensitive. What do you want to do? And that's created some interesting kind of conversations and kind of like, well, fate of the world and rescuing your brother.
Yeah,
What do you
I
wanna
think
do?
it scales the emotional toll of maybe a campaign or a mission rather than say like my character's girlfriend needed a heart transplant, and any other NPC would be like, yeah, okay, we'll just kind of go on and maybe just do something else because A, we don't have the money because we're all just completely broke at that point. B, we've got other stuff. We've got literally like the fate of a galaxy to save. But because they represent an emotional toll to my character and honestly everybody else's, because she's kind of the mum of the group, we're like, yeah, we're going to focus on that this session rather than for fate of a galaxy because we love her, basically. And anyone else, it would have been like, yeah, whatever, really.
Hey, you were going to say something a while ago. I don't know if you were...
What's that?
Oh,
Sorry.
You were going to say something a while
Yeah,
ago.
no, I got something
Sorry.
good. I got something.
please.
Well, it was a counterpoint to Jen, and I'm gonna lay it on even more. Like, I agree 100% with everything everyone said. It builds up a personal relationship. It creates bonds to the world. Yada yada. But it can alienate other people at the table 100%. Not just for one session, but if you make like, I don't know, one of the main big bads the brother of another character. Now you got one character who has an extremely strong relationship with the story, extremely personal relationship with the story. But then but that's at the expense of everybody else.
Remind me to talk to you about an experience later.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like it's fantastic. It's an amazing tool, but you gotta share the wealth.
Yeah,
you gotta
definitely.
make sure that everybody has somebody that they have this strong personal connection to throughout the entire game. Otherwise, you can start going down this rabbit hole where you're fixating on one character for too long, and then it becomes hard to share spotlight. It becomes hard to have everybody else.
That's exactly what happened in that game.
Yeah, it's tough. So it's like, do it, always do it, but also make sure you be careful when you do it.
Yeah,
I think
make sure everyone gets a chance in the spotlight. 100%.
I think my DM is really good at that sort of thing. Because I'm gonna kind of drop it here. Whereas, for Big Bad is the brother of my character. So that was
spoilers.
Yikes!
You're dropping that right there.
But he's not the only Big Bad. And everybody else has somebody to focus on instead of, galaxy-ending threat.
Mhm.
It's funny that you say that. That not the only big bad in the Homebrew game that we do, the one with the angels and demons and stuff. One of the big bads is one of our characters' mother, and we only know that because of a one-shot that was made canon. So like the players know, none of the characters know, and now we're just like sitting there like,
That's
oh
cool.
my god! Like we're really good on not using meta knowledge, but it's like now because we already had like the idea that she was bad, and we haven't come in contact with her, but now we know just how bad it is and just how bad it's going to get in the future. It's like, ooh,
That's cool.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Let me know how that goes.
I'm excited. I get to play like a brawler, half Minotaur, half Elvish, man.
Oh, sick.
So much fun.
Bish bash bosh.
Yeah.
It makes for a good roleplay, right? Like we all have a family for the most part. We all know how to have those relationships or those connections. It can ground your roleplay on a very personal level. I'll also add, for the sake of conversation, I'll add another little caveat that I think is important, and I think Isabel, you touched on it a little bit. It's that it can get real emotional real quick, right? Like it can get really intense.
Oh yeah.
And I'm actually not sure where I sit on this, and maybe you guys can share your opinions on it. But like character bleed and player bleed, in that sense, can be really good, right? Like you can lean into your emotions if you had a personal experience where your loved one was sick or hurt or in danger. Man, you can get some really cool dramatic moments out of it. But at what like personal cost does that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, is it good or bad if you're leaving the session feeling bummed out because you had to relive an experience that was very emotional to you?
My best friend had that experience. She was going through a really rough time, and she created a character kind of to play that out, which had a couple of issues, which we'll deal with that later. But the character, like. What the character did was kind of like enable her to not address it at all. So like every time she would go to session, she would lean further into this rut, and I'm just like, you need to get out of this rut, not kill the character, but like nix the character, roll up a new one because this character is not good for you. And like she didn't realize this until after the character had betrayed the entire party and tried to sell me out, but Love to be told to Archfey. Anyway.
Some people can find it really cathartic, can't they?
It's good catharsis. However, for her, it really is not.
I think it depends on the players, like where they're at in their healing process. If they have a lot of unresolved trauma or a lot of unresolved anger or unresolved issues with whatever the personal thing is that's similar to what happened in the story, it's not going to end well for anybody, especially that player.
Right.
Yeah. So it's a
outlet,
healing.
but maybe not so much a mirror, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I think the only time I don't want to say the only time, but pretty much one of the only times I could think of that something like that would be okay is if you're deliberately in like a therapeutic like D&D game with a somebody who does that type of work, which there are people out there that do. But I think I say this coming from the perspective of my background is in social work, so it's really easy for me to see that in a lot of people's just everyday lives, not just at the table. But I'm guilty of it myself. Like I have definitely leaned into things too hard that I'm like, after the fact I'm like, ooh, that didn't feel good, and I need to sort this out in my personal life before I come back to that.
Need to lean back.
Yep.
Sorry, I apologise if you can hear my dogs moaning at me in the background. Every now and then.
Dogs,
It's because I'm ignoring him.
I can tell. I could hear it, and I was just like,
every now and then,
it's just constantly like, why? Why?
You shouldn't be.
I was imagining those like.
No.
You shouldn't be so rough on them.
Oh, come on. It took me a split second to pick that one up.
Come on.
Come on.
It's great for sound effects for when I'm
There you go.
playing.
Yeah. Dog
It was
engine.
dark and stormy night.
So yes, if anybody's listening to this and they need a sound of like a sad dog in the background,
I
feel
can
free to rip that out of the audio.
I'll isolate it later. Don't
Yeah,
worry.
yeah. All right, let's see. We got another question from Businesslike. Businesslike asks, and I think this is a good question. My group has a player that is having difficulty melding in with the others. How can I help as a player?
As a player,
One of the things that I like to do is if I notice that someone is maybe not engaging as much as they might seem to want to, there are two things that I sometimes try and do. The first thing I do is usually in-game, in character. I will involve that character very, very purposefully. Like if I'm going off to scout something, or if like we're setting watches, I'll be like, hey, character, do you want to take watch with me? Or, hey, I was thinking of going to scope this out. I could use your insert skill here. And that's kind of a way to kind of get the player to engage a little bit more. If that doesn't seem to be working, then honestly, I will reach out of game and be like, hey, I noticed that like you seem to want to engage a little bit more, but like, like every time you go to say something, you kind of stop. Like, is there something that I can help with? Like, I'm usually just pretty straight up.
Yeah.
I think the thing is not to make any assumptions about it is, because there could be any number of reasons why they're kind of struggling to do that engagement, and it is, as you said, it's about having a conversation. Just needs to be. I'm really sorry. I thought it was going to be asleep.
No, it's okay.
It just
no.
needs
This is perfect. Your dog only wants to interact more with you. This is the exact scenario that is going on. No, but I agree.
Ask him what he wants. Ask him what he wants and role play it out.
Yeah.
I do agree. Interacting with them is like probably one of the, I want to say, safest ways to do it, because if you ask them up front, they might get like a little sheltered, or a little not sheltered, like they might like withdraw a little bit, and that can have like a negative impact for them at the table. As like a player, absolutely interacting with them. As a DM, I've had instances that I have kind of brought into it that those characters might have like a specific skill that the rest of the party might not be able to utilize as well, and bringing that into the circumstance would allow that player to be like, hey, I know a little bit about this, so if we want to like make like a plan around that, or I'll go ahead and do this thing, then that gives them the power to at that point take like sort of the lead, and they can then interact from there. But it, like Tal's saying, it does depend per player. Some people are trying to play a character that maybe doesn't talk as much, and as a result, they are sort of withdrawing purposefully as like a character development sort of deal.
I think sometimes people can find it, especially if it's either a new group or a new game, can be quite overwhelming sometimes.
Intimidating as well.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, one of the groups I play in, one of the guys, and he's a really good friend, but he just likes hanging out with us. So, his character doesn't interact as much, but because we all know each other, we know that, he's joining in, he's having fun.
I'm
He's
sorry.
joining in, he's having fun.
Sorry. I looked over to chat too, and it's just all about Tal's dog.
Is it really? Oh.
It's literally like he wants to engage, and you're ignoring him. It's so good.
Yeah. I said next week on Tal's dog.
He would love it. He is such an attention seeker.
Oh. Get us a picture of a poor dog.
Sad, neglected pup.
He is so not neglected. This is all just. But
So
why
unloved.
are you not attacking me?
Abandoned. So sad.
Oh my gosh.
Oh dear.
I think I welfare check on Tal's dog.
I absolutely promise you, there is
Oh my
you cannot
god.
find a more pampered pooch than another. Honestly,
I think though, going back to the question at hand, I think it's a little hard without the context of in what way they're not melding with the group.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because we talked a little about engagement.
I am just going to check on him. I won't be too
Okay. We talked a little about engagement, but it also could be like maybe their humor doesn't fit, or their, for whatever reason, it's something that's not necessarily a play thing, or maybe the way that they play doesn't meld with the rest of the group. Maybe they're more murder hobo and the rest of the group is more diplomatic or something like that.
Yeah.
I think what Jen said though about reaching out even just out of session and just saying, hey, I noticed X, Y, and Z, do you feel like this is working for you? And, if not, how can we fix it? So
yeah, I was gonna say that 100% all for points. Clearly, generally just getting them more engaged, at least in character. 100%. I know from personal experience that sometimes just mentioning to the DM out of game, maybe include this player a bit more in the next session, maybe have a small side quest or something for them to develop their character. Maybe their character isn't fully developed, and then just looking for a way to kind of what's the word? What's the phrase? Kind of understand their own character.
mm-hmm.
As a DM, sometimes it sounds bad, but sometimes I just forget about some characters because maybe they are more stoic and they're in the background, and some other players do take up a lot more of the time, really.
Some people are just very functional, aren't they?
Yeah,
sort of
they're the face of the party.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I've had situations. There was a situation actually in recent memory where we had been in this campaign for 3+ years, and one of the players dropped out, so we got a new player to come in and join us, and he didn't mesh into the group as well because he didn't have the dynamic that we had. We had spent 3 years playing together. We had this. It was understood how certain characters interact with each other. We spoke the same language, and some of the strategies that I use, just to drop a few, and take it with a grain of salt. It might not apply fully to your situation, but I did the thing that everyone's saying. You talk to them out of game. I actually spoke to them before the game started, and I was saying, hey, my character, I put it on me. I put the onus on me. I said, I would really love to have an interaction with your character about their beliefs in magic in this world, in this setting, because I'm a magic user, and it's it's kind of taboo to do magic. I'd love to have that conversation one-on-one in character tonight. And then we had it, and it was a great role play moment between our characters. I mean, whether or not that satisfied them in their engagement at the table, I don't know, but it was a fun interaction, and I think both of us enjoyed it. Another thing that I like to do is to speak well of that character in character to other people at the table. So you're traveling, you're on horseback, and you know how the camera pans from one set of characters to the other or whatever. You could say something like, oh man, in that last fight, their character was so great. They got the killing blow on the big enemy. Man, they're so strong. I can't wait to see what they do next. And just saying that kind of puts the wind in their sails, and it's going to make them feel like you're taking notice of them at the table, and that maybe, don't worry, the limelight's coming. We're looking forward to seeing what your character has to offer, that kind of stuff. Yeah. So that's my perspective on that.
Yeah. I know the topic came up earlier where it's when they start to say something and then they kind of stop. As a player, I'll usually look towards them. You started to say, did you want to add a note to this? And that'll usually put the spotlight towards them. And if they want to step into it, they can, or they can choose not to. At that point, sometimes it's just the ability to not try to like interrupt somebody or to stop somebody else's thought process, because it's going to inevitably happen. People are going to end up accidentally talking over each other. It's already happened like 8,000 times in this stream. At the table, it can happen way more because now you got characters, and then you got normal players, and then you got NPCs. It's just everything. So sometimes just having that spot to be able to start to talk and having that pause can help somebody start.
Yeah, and being acknowledged, honestly, because like there have been times when I've just been like, I'm gonna start to say something, but no one's looking at me, so I'm just gonna be like, okay.
Yeah.
Well, like if someone's like, hey Jen, you had something to say, I'll be like, thank you. Yes, I did. Pun.
Pun.
I don't have anything witty for y'all. I'm sorry.
Sometimes maybe it's just a confidence issue. I think a lot of new players tend to have a competence issue with maybe not knowing the rules or not knowing really. I know it's kind of it's a strange way of putting it, but not knowing how to roleplay.
Yeah.
Because in a game that I'm playtesting, I have my niece playing, and she's actually really, really good at roleplaying, but her confidence isn't the best because it's her first game, and because the game is relatively advanced, even for like, I guess, veteran players, it's a lot to handle for literally a brand new player. She's never played before, and at some points she does ask, "Am I doing this right?" And it's just talking to like an NPC, and I have to go, "Yeah, you just talk. You're perfectly fine."
And also, like, improv is a learned and improv is a skill. It's not like an innate, like it can be an innate ability, but like improv is something that you have to work on to get good at. And like it can be intimidating when you jump in, seeing all these veteran players just like, you know, playing off of one another, like bouncing off of each other. Like, and if you're not super into improv, like I was in the beginning when I was first playing TTRPGs, I didn't know, I had nothing, but like. Sometimes it can be really scary to come out of your shell and be like, am I improving right? Look, there's no wrong way to improv, just do it.
I think that sort of ties in with like joining older groups. Because as you said, like improv is a skill. But personally, I feel that improv is a skill per group, which meshes in with like in-jokes and how the characters respond to each other.
It's a sport. It's like a team sport, you know. Eventually,
everyone
when you're playing
plays
a certain
on
sport.
Yeah.
Some people know, like, oh, if I pass the ball to you, you're gonna pass it back. We do this cool give and go, whatever. It's exactly that in a role playing scenario.
And
you have to learn your ins and outs.
Kind of what you said, Matt, with the whole new people joining an older group. I've had that exact experience. I've had in my current group. We were only in like 10 sessions in, maybe 10, 15 sessions. And we had a couple of players drop out, so we got some new ones, and they didn't mesh with us because we had been a well-oiled machine. We knew how to play off each other, and it wasn't the same, if you know what I mean. You can tell when a group works, and it's just I think part of it was for confidence. And not kind of knowing how to integrate themselves with the party.
Not to labor the point.
Big issue.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Tyler. You said
no.
Oh no, I was agreeing. I said yes.
Not to labor the point. I have one other thing on this. Sorry, I feel passionate about this. This is something you can do that we've done at our table lately is also come to the understanding that if you say something that's like lore unfriendly or like not canon or whatever, it's okay. Like have the meta understanding at your table that if you call something the wrong name or you just like you use lingo that's not exactly the way it ought to be said, it's fine. And then you can correct it later when you're out of the roleplay scene. But just if everybody's on the same page, that person might feel a little bit more confident in just rolling with the punches, say whatever comes to their mind. And if they, they called the Arcanum the wrong thing, like it's who cares? Like it's not the end of the world.
Definitely.
It's just the name.
We all know what they mean. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean,
As long
you've
as
all been
everyone
there.
understands you.
Everybody's got to start somewhere, haven't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess it really just like back to the main question, it just kind of like it boils down to make sure that they know that that like they are welcome in the space. Like just make sure that they know that they are welcome, they are supported, and y'all are there to like give them what they need and welcome them into the group as best you can. Like ultimately it all comes down to just making sure they know that.
Yeah. I think maybe a last point, but I'm not sure about you guys. It's okay to not always mesh with a party, and don't try and force it if you think it won't work, because it will break a lot more if you try and force that bond, or that if you try and force yourself into somewhere where you don't maybe belong. There's always a party out there for you, and yeah, I think that's just kind of it for me.
100%.
I
100%.
completely agree.
Yeah. It's okay to step out if you got us.
There's no shortage of DMs looking for people.
True.
God, go to Twitter. You say, I'm looking for a game. 3,000
Yeah.
comments. I'm like,
Where can
hey,
I find these
Yep,
40,000
yep.
replies? I want them.
I will add for caveat, depending on system.
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
that
that's
is.
fair enough.
Like 5e
Kinda-
games, you can always find like a bajillion.
Yeah.
Less so in independent systems and indie systems, but they're still out there.
I would say for trying to find a Pathfinder 1E has actually been really hard for me, surprisingly so.
Wait, yo, hi, that's me.
Wait, yo.
It's been super hard. But yeah, there's
So many
always a
people
system.
Transition to 2E.
Oh, I just love one. Like 2e is just intimidating to me. Which is funny because it seems simpler. It's just more intimidating to me somehow.
I know a ton of groups that have gone to 5e from Pathfinder, and
Yep.
I don't really want to play 5e anymore. I just want to play what I want to play. So,
Yeah, Pathfinder's a good time.
but,
It
yeah.
is.
Hopefully that helps.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm looking at the time and we have one more question. I don't think we're going to have time to get through it, but I'll throw the question out there just in case anybody wants to take a stab at it real quick. So the last question that we got came in from I'm just going to call you Despacito. I hope that's okay. And the question was there a moment that you realized TTRPGs were special or that made it really click for you? And if so, what was it?
So this was less to deal with a TTRPG. So when I first started watching some of them, I had no intentions of going into the genre, never playing, DMing, anything like that, because I didn't think that I had the mental fortitude to just start to construct like words and characters and creating a story. But my friend had brought me into a role-play chat that was based on a game. It was based off Persona 5, and it was just basically role-playing it out as characters. Some were playing as characters that they made, others were playing as characters from the game. So when I initially started, I started out as a character from the game, and when I started to see people's created characters, created stories, and going from there, I built a story for a character that already existed in the game, and eventually wanted to make a character of my own. And after doing that and creating a whole storyline with that, I saw people getting really into what I had created. And as a result, that brought me, it was TTRPGs were in the back burner, and this started me going into TTRPGs because it did show me that I could do something like this and could create characters, could write a story, and then have other people enjoy it just as much as I did making it.
I think
Yeah,
for
that's cool.
me, I was it was start of secondary school, and everyone getting to know each other, and someone lent me a book, and it was Dragons of Autumn Twilight, and I just devoured it because it was so, literally 3:00 in the morning, still kind of reading it through, and we had a bit of it's such a good book. And we had this big discussion, and he was like, "Did you know that you can be those characters. And I was like, oh, hang on, what?
Say more.
That was it. At that point, I was like, okay. And from that kind of point onwards, it was very much I was always a big reader, but sometimes just having that agency of going, this is my story and this is where I take it is just so powerful. That's the kind of, rush you get from these kind of games, is that you can create whatever you want, and satisfaction of kind of taking a character all the way through, or seeing them fail and then pick themselves up. It's better than anything because you're driving it and it's what you want.
I tell the story a lot when someone asks me about why I'm so obsessed with D&D, or or TTRPGs, or as I like to call them, titterpigs. Titterpigs. That moment for me was a very clearly defined moment. I can actually pinpoint the moment I learned. I did that moment actually happened about a year and a half after I started playing TTRPGs. I initially was just there for the company and the people and the friends. I didn't really know what I was doing because it was Pathfinder, and my GM, he had this tendency to forget that not everyone has an IQ of a bajillion, and just forgot to slow down enough to explain what the hell I was doing. So I was just like, what do I roll? Okay, 7. 7, whatever. However, he figured that out pretty fast, and I was still not really having it. I didn't really know what I was doing. I was disconnected half the time. I was gone on Ultimate Frisbee tournaments, and one day he brings in a villain that seems to be weirdly fixated on my character. Not in a weird way, just in a, we're from the same country, so screw you way. And also his boss, another villain who was the same deal. And I had no backstory to speak of, no motivations, no nothing. I was like, I'm here, me and my bird, it's just me and my bird, we're here. And then one day this big boy villain swings through the inn window that I was sleeping in, middle of the night, takes me down to it was 9 hit points. For reference, we were level 7 or 8 at this point, so it was pretty significant, before I'm even awake. And before I know it, I'm unconscious because it's a fucking monk. Let's be real. And in Pathfinder, when you're dying, basically you make your save. If you fail your save, you lose a hit point until you're down to your negative your Constitution score, at which point you die. And I'm watching her hit points go down as I, for some reason, just keep failing these saves. And I remember having this moment of realization, being like, oh my god, I don't want her to die. So I somehow survived that entire battle. I didn't die. After that, I then wrote a backstory. I incorporated those 2 characters into my backstory, and I resolved then and there, this is an amazing hobby. I love what I'm doing. Someone managed to take something that I was pretty nonchalant and ambivalent about, and make me really, really care about it. And that was kind of a really magical story of, oh crap, I don't want this character to die. And that's my story.
And she's sticking to it.
And I'm sticking to it.
I'm gonna go and say no, though. I'm gonna be the odd one out and say I don't think I can pinpoint a moment. There was definitely a progression. The love grew over time, and the more I got into the hobby, the more I started podcasting, the more I started playing, the more I started game mastering. It grew, but I can't. Hats off to you guys for having a turnkey moment that really spoke to you. I don't know. I love it. That's all that matters to me, I guess.
Yeah, hey, you're into it, and that's pretty much
that's what matters.
That's where you are. So the starting doesn't matter; it's the middle line there.
I'm kind of the same as Matt, to be honest. I couldn't really pinpoint a time, but that's a lie. Every time I play, I'm finding something new and magical about the game and why I love it. really.
Yeah.
Every time I make a character, I put a little bit of myself into them, and seeing them grow and change and develop in ways I didn't even intend for them to go into is why I love tabletop games, and that's why I play, really.
That's awesome.
I don't think I had an exact moment, but I do remember there was one time that it was really early on when I was playing D&D, like probably my first or second campaign. And so this was like 13 years ago, 12 years ago, something like that. And people who have affectionately heard me refer to the bad DM was another player in this campaign. And his character, I was doing a one-on-one little side quest with the DM because we had to take a week off, and so a couple of us were like, oh, well, since we're resting in this place, we want to do this thing. And so he's like, okay, so your character wakes up in the middle of the night and you happen to notice that your cleric is hogtied in a fireplace over there, like hanging from a stick, and like a big, almost like a spit, but just hanging there. But he's sound asleep. And I'm like, okay. So I just keep going. And so I go off and I do my mission and I come back and he's like, okay, so before you go to rest, is there anything else you want to do? And I said, yes. And he goes, oh God. And so I will say I was chaotic neutral. And I was a rogue, and I said, I want to take everything out of his bag and his pockets, and I want to place a fire trap under him. And he's like, oh my God. So somehow he's like, you need to roll above this, whatever it was. And I managed to pull it off without waking him up. And I was like, I am sold. I am so into this now. So the next time the whole group gets together, he's like, so you wake up and, for the most part, everybody looks pretty normal, except for some reason, player, your character is hogtied in a, in the middle of a fireplace. And he's like, oh my God. So he gets himself down and he's like, and you land in a fire trap. And he's like, what the hell? And it was just this moment of like, oh, that was a lot of fun. All right. Well, we are at about the time where we need to start wrapping up. So, what I'm going to have everybody do is we're going to go around again and just remind us of who you are and where we can find you online. And then Jim the Dim threw a question out for everybody to answer during your outro, if you will. So who you are, where we can find you online, and show off your favorite TTRPG accessory within reach. So everybody has a second to look for one real quick. And we're going to go. Okay, we're going to go in I know what yours is. Was it what you showed off before we went live?
No.
Oh, okay. So we're going to go in the reverse order of when we went this morning. So Tyler, we're going to start with you.
Well, I'm Tyler. I'm the Dungeon Master and creator of Misroll Adventures, where the players make plans and horribly execute them. You can find us on YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch with as Misrolled_Adventures. And we play tons of games. We play role-play games, strategy games, survival games, as well as going into role-play games heavily, where we voice act, play things like that. We run 2 campaigns that we stream every other Saturday. This upcoming Saturday, we'll actually be streaming Stella Heart again. We went on a slight hiatus because our DM unfortunately caught COVID, so couldn't do it last week or last month. And he's fully recovered, and he's been dying to play it. And one of my favorite accessories is actually for said campaign, as I play a glamour bard who is a tap dancer. So I had purchased some instruments to use,
Oh,
so that way I can
castanets,
actually
yeah.
that way I can perform as tap dances, because that's the best I can do, because I cannot actually tap dance. So
Dedication.
this has probably been the least inexpensive, but also one of my favorite things to have gotten for an accessory to a character.
I love that. Well, thank you for coming on. It was so good to have you come back again.
Oh, so much fun.
Yeah, all
Mr.
right.
Chatty.
I know. Tal, we'll head over to you next.
So you can catch me over on Twitter at The Gamers Rest. My dogs are fine, so please don't at me asking about my dog's welfare. They are extremely well looked after, I promise you that. So I'm a writer and designer of mainly 5e games and supplements. Hoping to have my Halloween one-shot game out this week if I can finish the editing. Just fingers crossed. It's taken a long time. But yeah, so and in terms of my accessories, so this was painted for me by, I don't know if you can see him, by a very good friend of mine, Michael Morder, who's a miniature painter.
Oh, he looks awesome.
And he is fantastic. And yeah, so one of the guys I actually play with on a regular basis, and he's a fantastic artist, and I love this. It's one of my favourite miniatures that I own. And yeah, and I shall probably be using it against them at some point in the future.
Inspiring and highly
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
I love that.
Bit of,
That's cool.
Electricity over there, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Tal, for coming.
Thank you.
Today. This
Thanks
was
for the
fun
invite.
to get to know you. Matt.
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Luna, for having me back on. Love being here. The conversations are always great.
Yeah.
If you guys enjoy conversations like this, you'll probably enjoy listening to Roleplay Chat. That's ROLE Play Chat. It's a deep dive podcast conversation about tabletop RPGs. Sometimes we have really cool guests on the show to bring their unique perspectives to talk about a number of topics. We go from, quote unquote, straightforward things like talking about traps, or sometimes we talk about more complicated things like player engagement, role play at your table, adventure building, that kind of thing. So it's a lot of fun. We've had some awesome guests on. Luna's been on the show before. I'm actually super pumped because every time I get to talk about this, I get like butterflies in my stomach. But I got to talk to Brennan Lee Mulligan on one of our episodes. It was like actually like meeting one of your heroes. It was awesome.
That's great.
And yeah, so any podcasting platform that you use, you can find Roleplay Chat there. The episodes are not in any kind of order. You can listen to them all jumbled up if there's a topic that speaks to you. And then you can find me on Twitter. I try to be as interesting as I can on there. That's at roll_play_chat. And that's it. Yeah. Hoping to be back. Oh, and my thing that I want to show off, that I showed off before the show,
Yeah.
is my craft
So
that I
good,
built.
yeah.
It's a
Wow.
XPS foam boat with wood grain. It took me forever to do the wood grain. Like, honestly, it took me forever to carve all the wood grain. And it opens
so
up.
impressive.
You can like open it up and play inside. So yeah, we play a pirate campaign, so I get to use this quite a bit.
That is awesome.
Very
I must not have been around when you had shown that, because that looks
Oh, it's fun.
beautiful.
Right.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
good.
Yeah.
I thought it was a toy. I thought you literally went out and bought it. Like,
No,
at
man,
a
it's
store.
all yeah. I have like this foam
yeah.
cutter and everything. My wife hates me for spending too much time playing with styrofoam.
It's all right. You could be spending all your money on dice.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Well, Matt, it was great to have you back, and yeah, it's your podcast is fantastic, and I highly recommend it. So, thank you for coming on, Jen.
All right. Hi, guys. I'm Jen. This is Freya, my sad, sick cat. I can be found on Twitter at JenBurb. And I play on Plot Hunters, which is an all POC D&D 5e stream. Right now we're on hiatus. However, I will be coming out with a baby campaign to span that hiatus, so keep an eye out. There isn't too much about me. Most of the games that I play are offline. I regaled the other five, with tales of my unrealistically numerous TTRPG exploits. My favorite TTRPG accessory is going to be a little weird. So in my Pathfinder games, two of my Pathfinder games, we use a system called Spheres of Might, which is basically an alternative martial system. And as if you've played it, or if you even just, play with a lot of spells and abilities and stuff like that, you know how annoying it is to keep track of everything. So I actually have ability cards that I have handwritten out, including action economy, descriptions, all that. So this is going to be my favorite TTRPG accessory because it helps me keep track of what the hell I'm doing.
I
That's
love it.
super cool.
That's
I love
really
it.
cool.
Anyway,
Yeah,
thank you
very
so much.
nice handwriting too.
Thank you. This has been a fantastic experience.
Great. I'm glad to hear it, and it was so great to have you on. I'm super impressed with those.
I'll send you more detailed pictures later.
Awesome. All right, and Isabel.
Yes. Hi. Again, I'm Isabel. You can find me on Twitter at UnoxPoweredGame. Typically, it's a lot of shitposting, but occasionally when I'm actually productive, I kind of tend to plug my in-development tabletop RPG. And there are a couple of projects that I want to get started soon enough. Kind of bit of a surprise now and again, but yeah, hopefully that'll pick up soon. So keep an eye out for that, I guess, if you like surprises.
I like
And yeah, it was a I guess honor being on here. My first kind of podcast get together, so this was great.
Awesome.
You were a natural, so.
Yes, it was great to have
Killed
you.
it.
Do you have a accessory to show off?
Unfortunately not. I do literally all of my gaming online now.
Yeah.
Majority of the people I know are from America, so in person is a bit impractical.
Yeah, a little bit.
Oh, what? You're not gonna fly every time to sit down at a table?
I guess I'm a bad DM. What can I say?
Can't believe it.
And all my physical stuff is actually back at my old house, so
The accessory is your computer.
There you go.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
that's
have
your favorite accessory.
hundreds of accessories on here,
There you go.
all to help me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, all of you, for coming on. And I know some of you probably have had to stay up excruciatingly late to be here, and I appreciate that very much. And I am Gamer Mom Luna. This has been Tales from the Tavern. My favorite TTRPG accessory. No, it is not my dice. It is my dice catapult.
Awesome.
I saw that sitting behind you for
Yeah.
so long. I was gonna
Very
ask
cool.
what
I
that
actually
was.
have two of them. I have one that sits behind me, and I have another one on a shelf above my desk. And they come from Elderwood Academy, and oh my god, I love them. They're supposed to be for rolling a d20. They also work really great for mini marshmallows. Just saying. I definitely have not tried that at all. Shooting marshmallows at a
What's
DM
the range
ever.
you get on that thing? How far does it go?
Depends on the tension of the rubber band you put on it.
I beat 15 with disadvantage.
So there you go. So if you ever see me joking about, Apache 1222 in chat puts it in about our marshmallow autocannons, that's where that came from. is my dice catapult. So, yes, so Tales from the Tavern, we're here every Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific, and you can catch us, like I said, every Sunday night. Coming up next week, we're going to be doing a fundraiser. We're partnering, I am partnering with the Games Tavern for doing a charity stream for Operation Supply Drop. If you are not familiar with them, they are a veterans charity that works with them on helping them transition to civilian life, transitioning from active duty to civilian life, and linking them with agencies in the community that they can volunteer with and things like that. So, so we're going to be helping raise some money for them. And we still have the casting call out for our My Little Ponies in Ravenloft game. If anybody is interested, let me know. I will get the link to you guys. Hopefully we're going to be starting that up fairly soon. And Yep, we're playing as My Little Ponies in Ravenloft, so that's going to be fun.
Yes, please.
Because hey, you already have a character made.
Yeah,
right?
Done. Easy.
And that will be an 8-week streamed game here right on my channel. The date and all of that, times and everything are still TBD. So so we're working on that. And I think we're going to go raid Total Party Chill, who is streaming some tabletop RPGs tonight. They are a very fun group, so sit tight, and we will be back again next Sunday night, and we will see you then. Have a great evening, everybody.
Bye-bye, guys.